Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Always delighted to be talking with someone working in the world of comics. And on this episode, I'm talking with comics creator Henry Martinez. Henry, thank you for jumping in, joining, and it looks stormy where you are. Is that the case?
It's just it's cloudy, not
Yep.
stormy quite yet. But we did just go through a horrible storm last night. But things are good today and they're going to get better.
Good, good. This is good. Yes, absolutely. We just had a little bit of snow strangely come through after
Oh,
a
no.
lot of rain, but
Yeah.
nevertheless. So I'll mention a couple of titles that you might be most known for. And so that would be Spirits of Vengeance,
Yeah.
Blaze, and Cult of Dracula being a couple that
Yeah.
come to mind. And I usually ask about sort of favorite experiences that folks have beyond that. So any titles that weren't on that list that you'd like to mention?
Sure. The company I'm currently working for and have over many, many years is Heroic Publishing. And they publish Liberty Girl, League of Champions, Flare, Sparkplug. A lot of people do not know these characters or books, but what appealed to me is that I got to draw a superhero team before Marvel tapped me for work.
Yeah.
So, and I, a lot of people may be scared of doing a big team book, but I loved it because you draw a ton of heroes, different backgrounds, and fighting styles. It was just, and actually, I think looking back, it's some of my favorite work. We're talking, I don't know, 20 years ago. But fortunately, I'm still working with these guys. And, hope you either get better or you stay the same. So fortunately, I've been improving over the years. So I'm really happy with what I'm doing now. But yeah, my time at Heroic was my favorite. And
Nice.
strangely, you'd think the Marvel stuff would be my favorite, but back then, it was just bang out the work, deadlines, just work, work,
Yeah.
work, turn it in. And then, you're done and you move on to the next one. And when I saw the book published, I thought, oh, this is not great. I could have done better. But there are only a certain amount of hours in the day, and I'm not that fast. But looking back now, I'm selling my original work, so I actually get to see the pages again. And I like it now. I didn't like it
Yeah.
so much back then. But I didn't know that there was such a big fan base for the work. And it makes me really happy because there are people saying, your book was my introduction to comics. And I didn't think of that back then. But now it brings me great joy because I see the fans at the shows. And some of these guys are bringing their kids along and introducing them to that
Yeah.
era. So there's a lot of pluses, a lot of good feelings around that time, that I'm finally appreciating.
That's cool. Yeah. So some nostalgia, some looking back,
Yeah,
but yeah, I do imagine I love comics. I love the medium. I love the form. But when you're on a monthly deadline like that for some of those issues, I imagine at a certain point, either you go to autopilot or it just becomes kind of a stressful situation.
sure. And it's you want to do the best you can every single day, but it's just physically impossible. So at some point, like they tell most artists, at some point, stop. If you keep reworking things, you're
Yeah.
just never gonna, and you can't do that on a monthly publishing schedule. You just have to swallow it and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, as far as the journey to comics, how did you know that comics was the space that you wanted to create in?
I think I was just really lucky. My I just saw comics on the rack, and my parents, I guess like today they hand their kids an iPad. Back then
Mhm.
they hand you a stack of comics. So I just had comics, and I saw them, and I just thought to myself, I want to draw like this. And I think back then, I don't know, John Buscema was the number one guy. Uh, the 70s, 80s classic comic books.
Mhm.
I wasn't, strangely enough, I did not understand Jack Kirby's work back then.
Mhm.
I love it now, I appreciate it, but as a kid, I thought it was clunky and ugly. So, but just reading the comics and then copying them, and I just took to it. And my father he didn't understand it, but he was really supportive. He just gave me comics. He bought me, we were really broke, so we'd go to the you get me these watercolor stationery kits that were like I don't know, $1.25. And I
Hmm.
just use these cheap art supplies. But I was able to produce comics at 12, 13, 14. Handmade.
Nice.
You draw them on printer copy paper, you
Hmm.
fold them, you staple, and you got a comic book. It was a lot of fun. And then again, they were very supportive. My dad bought me How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Are you familiar with
Hmm.
that book?
I am, yeah, yeah. I've not actually used it, but I've heard a lot about it.
It is the Bible. Like that book has everything any aspiring comic book artist ever needed. And I look through it every single year and I learn something new every year. So I can't recommend that enough.
Hmm.
But he bought me that book and I followed all the rules. And he even bought me like a cheap little art table to work in the corner and just let me be. And my interest just grew and I got better. And that was it, really. I've always wanted to do that, and thank goodness I was able to actually work in the field. It's a dream come true.
Yeah, that's cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
We don't all get to do what we said we wanted to as a kid, you know. There'd be more firemen and astronauts than we can count, and
And a few
count.
superheroes. I would be a
Yeah, well,
superhero most
yeah,
likely.
that's true.
Yeah. Do you still have those copies of those books that you made as a child? Or are
Oh,
those around somewhere?
no, unfortunately, we moved a lot when I was growing up.
Yeah.
With my brother. So a lot of it's gone, but I do remember I have a vivid memory of, I did an I did a Star Wars comic right after Empire Strikes Back ended. There
Uh-huh.
was this long wait for Return of the Jedi, and I decided I'm going to do a story of what happens between those two, before the next film. And I don't know why, but I did it in red ballpoint pen, fully realized comic book, and but that's gone. I wish I kept that one because that was really important and very significant in terms of a memory of mine. The rest I forgot. I don't know where they are, but they're gone,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Curious about people that have been sort of supporters, some of the best collaborations in the industry so far.
Supporters, well, always the fans.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, actually, in terms of actual creative talent, Larry Hama was a big part of my development because he wrote Blaze.
Hmm.
And just really supportive. I've already heard good things about him. Like he got treated horribly when he was out there publishing, drawing, writing,
Hmm.
and he would always watch out for the little guy. So if there was a new guy he knew was treated badly, he'd take them under his wing. He'd warn you about this guy and that guy. And he always gave wonderful advice. Fortunately, back then you could just pop into the Marvel offices,
Hmm.
drop off your pages. People are walking around, and somebody saw me and called me over to John Romita Sr.'s desk. He was art director, and his job, he would just take your stuff. I worked on an hour on a sketch for a cover. He'd take the thing, put a piece of tracing paper over, zip, zip, zip. A minute later, he improved the cover by 100%. And who am I? I did
Wow.
exactly what. And then Larry happened to be there that day. And he calls me over. He goes, Henry, come here. Sits me down and he shows me how to improve my work. Because back then, the image style was the thing. 90s, really tight, over rendering. I'm
Hmm.
not complaining. That was just the style. And fortunately, because of that style, I was able to get work because they were bringing in people that could emulate that because the image boys had gone already. So Larry sits me down and he goes, Henry, simplicity is key. I understand why you're over rendering, but the less you render, the better. Trust me on this. Excuse
Hmm.
me.
Yeah, of course, of course.
That thirst I was talking about. So he did the same thing, a piece of tracing paper, zip, 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 got rid of 50% of the line work. And he was right. But I kept doing the style I was doing because I thought that's what was getting me work. So I kept that
Mhm.
going as long as possible. But today I definitely have 50% less line work. He got me into Alex Tove, uh,
Mhm.
and classic illustrator. So my work is more brushy now. It's very simple. Steve Rude's a great example of simplicity, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of information there with very little rendering. And I think that's key. You know, if you like rendering, great. George Perez, amazing at rendering, but not everybody can do that and keep a monthly schedule.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a mutant. But Larry was very influential. Ramirez Sr., very helpful. Unfortunately, I didn't get to spend too much time with him because very busy guy and always helping people out. So
Hmm.
those guys stand out.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome,
Lucky.
awesome. Lots of great folks in the corner there, and loved hearing about Larry Hama as well. I met him at a convention once, and very nice guy. Seemed to
He
be very
is.
kind.
And that's all genuine. He just wants to help.
Yeah.
And he just, I mean, I know he's known for G.I. Joe, but he did a ton of great work before that. I mean, he's always done great work. But fortunately, he found G.I. Joe, and it was a fluke. He's
Hmm.
like, I don't know if he's told the story. I mean, or told you, but he's told the story many times. Um, no one at Marvel wanted to touch G.I. Joe. Like, oh, licensed. No,
Hmm.
I want to draw Spider-Man, you know. And I get that. But Larry took G.I. Joe and you know what he turned it into. And
Yeah.
he's very comfortable. Life is good. And I'm very happy for him. You know, he's a genuinely good guy and still does amazing work, actually, just a little slower.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Are
Yeah.
there um Are there particular threads? Because I know I mentioned Blaze and Spirits of Vengeance and Dracula, but all of those kind of have the gothic, almost kind of horror feel. Um,
Mm.
and then you've worked in the world of superheroes. Any particular types of stories that kind of bring you the most energy?
Energy. Well, you know, I grew up on superheroes, so I love that stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of I played D&D growing up, so I'm a big fan of Tolkien, anything fantasy. So I haven't had a chance to do that, but I'm doing a little project for myself and hopefully get it out there in a Kickstarter. But fantasy excites me. Superheroes excite me. And the Gothic thing was just a fluke. You know, the book
Mm-hmm.
happened. What is it? I started on Morbius, so like as a fill-in, and then that put me right on Spirits of Vengeance. We put me on Blaze. So yeah, I'm known for that stuff. But I'm a superhero guy at heart. I'm glad it happened because I did. I knew of Ghost Rider when I was a kid, and I did love him. And then all of a sudden, I'm drawing this guy. It's like, whoa. And so that excites me also. I'm just surprised I wound up in that space. And I got to thank again Larry Hama because he threw everything he loved from the Marvel universe, the horror side of it,
Hmm.
into Blaze. Like I got to draw Man Thing. That's amazing. To this day, I'm
Yep.
really excited. He threw in some vague characters whose name I forget. A plane traveler it was a pyramid with an eyeball and snakes. I forget right now, but Larry threw it all in there. Oh, and I got to draw Wendigo for a couple of issues because
Yeah.
Johnny's kids were kidnapped and they were traveling the plains. Wendigo was their guide, and Johnny was going nuts trying to find his kids. So just very interesting stuff, thanks to Larry. Wish it would have been that book. Actually, a lot of the books in the horror line were really good. It's just the bubble burst, and it
Yeah.
seems like almost everything was canceled then, and tons of people out of work, unfortunately. And if you didn't have a backup, if comics were all you had, it was rough on a lot of people. Unfortunately, I had a background in advertising storyboards, so I was able to keep afloat.
Yeah. Yeah. That was not too long after I got into comics.
Oh yeah,
The bubble bursting, but I'm glad that they've sustained in some way and continued in some way and kind of found moments of resurgence too.
the thing, yeah, people in general, especially people that say they are fans of comics, there's always this talk of, oh, the industry's done. And
Right, right.
that talk has been going on since the 50s, as far as I know. The industry will always be here as long as there's stories to tell, and people like us are willing to plunk well, now $5, but our people are willing to put down their money. Comics will always be there,
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Are there particular stories or characters that you would like to work with at this point in your career?
Stories, I just enjoy a good story, so it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you tell a good story. Characters, every you'd think everybody would say, "I want to work on the X-Men. I want to work on Spider-Man." And yeah,
Hmm.
okay, that would be great. It pays well, especially with the royalties.
Yeah.
But not really. I like the kind of vague characters. Like I really
Hmm.
love Rom Space Knight, the Micronauts. Who else was I a big fan of? Moon Knight when Bill
Oh
Sienkiewicz
yeah.
started. Like
Love
I had
Moon
no
Knight.
idea who Moon Knight was, and then all of a sudden there's this Neil Adams looking. I didn't know who Neil was. Actually, I discovered Bill before Neil, and then I realized, oh, he's copying Neil. But just it was so different. The genre, it's darker. Uh, just I just loved it. I love that stuff. So
Yeah.
and like Todd McFarlane wrote somewhere, he goes, I just wanted to work. You can give me the worst possible title. I will be very happy just to get it done. And in his case, and a handful of other people, including Rob Liefeld, they took failing books
Hmm.
and they made them popular. So that is a true talent. Like you should give everything an opportunity and not look down and be all foo-foo. I won't draw Doom Patrol, but Doom Patrol's huge to some people.
Yeah.
But the average person wouldn't know any of the characters. They know Spider-Man, that's Superman, Batman.
Hmm.
So yeah, minor characters, great stories. That's all I care about, really. You know?
And I love that you mentioned Man Thing too, as being one of those
Yeah.
characters. Just a very cool character to explore.
And I think that there's so much potential there too. There's so much more you could do. When that Werewolf by Night show came out, I got goosebumps. I
Yeah.
screamed at the TV. Yeah, it's bad. I loved it, and I was hoping there'd be more to do. Maybe they are working on another special. Who knows? But I was happy just to see him on screen. Like the
Yeah.
first time I saw Swamp Thing on screen, I totally geeked out because I love that book, and there he is. He's walking around. The
Yeah.
uh the first two films, yeah, he's kind of a goofy cartoon character, but it was all jokes, but I enjoyed it. The TV series that
It's
was
good.
wonderful, really
Yeah.
serious, and loved it. But yeah, Man Thing, that's a great example. I would love to draw Man Thing. And he's fun to draw with all the textures and stuff too, actually.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Any particular projects that are ongoing? Anything that you want to mention that is currently happening or upcoming that you can talk about, of course.
Sure. Well, like I mentioned, Heroic Publishing's League of Champions. I mean, there isn't much distribution. It's not well known, but I personally am enjoying it. And the guy just keeps giving me work that needs to be colored and inked. So this probably won't be out for a while. But he tries to put them out piecemeal. So I try to promote that when I can. But there really isn't much to show right now, but definitely
Hmm.
lots to talk about. Another thing that I finished a year ago, but the guy that funded the project is making deals. He wants. Well, let me start from the beginning. The book's called Jan Kroon, and it's supposed to be like a big mega epic sci-fi saga, kind of Star Warsy, but his own take on it. And it's written by Mike Barron, co-creator of Nexus. So I
Hmm.
got to
Hmm.
work with the guy, and it turns out Mike is an amazing guy. He's wonderful, and
Yeah.
he's friendly, and he pushes your name. Like we got introduced via Facebook. Thank you, Facebook.
Hmm.
And he's just whenever there's a gig that he thinks I can do, he'll recommend me. And I got this.
Nice.
So Mike wrote it. It's done. It's colored. It's ready to go. It's just the guy needs to put together his Kickstarter, and there's a lot of work involved in a book could be done in a year or two ago, and getting it out there is a whole year of funding and spreading the word and doing podcasts like he's doing, the creator. And Mike's got five different things going on, but I'm glad to
Um,
be able to associate myself with him because I'm a huge fan. Again, really nice guy. But anyway, so it's a sci-fi saga. it's supposed to be three graphic novels, 90 pages each. We did the first one, and he's getting the funding to finance the other two. There's a little, actually, I should share this later on. He already put together a mini promo video on YouTube.
Oh,
And,
nice.
it's motion capture. They take images and move them. Motion capture was the wrong word, but motion comic at
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
moment for promotional purposes. But I wish I would have known that because I would have done a lot of the work in separate layers to make it even more seamless and create depth of field. But they literally just took the artwork and manipulated it. Not that I'm complaining. It looks okay.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with the project because it's the guy loves what he did and he hopes to make films out of it. He's got a toy licensing deal, which a lot of people, they talk a lot over the years and have been through a lot of nonsense. But he seems to be the real deal because he's got a team of backers and there's marketing. There's a lot of stuff behind it. So I'm hopeful. But you don't
Yeah.
sit back and wait. You gotta line up the next project. Freelancing is it's not easy. It's not for everybody. A lot of
Yeah.
stress. But yeah, those are the two major things I can recall right now. Uh, um, I might be working on another horror book that from some guy that was recommended. He recommended me from a mutual friend who runs a comic book shop.
Oh,
This world
nice,
of
nice.
comics is wonderful. It's small and everybody seems to know everybody. And if you're a good person, you're not a nut. I'm sorry, you're not a difficult person to work with. There will always be some kind of work
Yeah.
because you don't want to recommend somebody who's a great talent but really eccentric and difficult to work
Mhm.
with. And I'm easygoing. I don't know
Right.
if I'm a little crazy looking, but I think I'm easygoing.
Not at all. Not at all. You come
Oh,
through very.
good. Oh, thank you. You're very kind. My
Uh,
wife won't agree with you, but yeah.
you mentioned Mike Barron. He actually, I'm pretty sure he wrote the first comic I ever read. It was a Batman annual.
Yeah,
So
you
I've
know
given him a
everything.
shout out or two.
I'm still discovering. I didn't know he wrote The Flash for a good long time. So
Yeah.
really versatile.
Hmm.
Oh, speaking of fantasy, I'm a big fan of the Elric saga and
Hmm.
all of Michael Moorcock's books. I didn't know. I just found out recently he wrote what is it, Corum? Are you familiar with the Corum character? He's one of the Eternal Champions.
I
Uh,
don't think so.
Corum. He's got a jeweled eye, and that eye sees through dimensions. I mean, Moorcock does some crazy fun stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah,
Mike
for
wrote
sure.
like that whole series of books in comic book form, and just amazing. Yeah, so, like you said, Batman. He's known for the Punisher. I didn't know that. So, really versatile guy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Love
Absolutely.
him.
Well, before we close out, anything that we've missed and any web spaces that you want to mention where people can connect and see the things that you're working on.
I'd love to share the social media stuff, but all these underscores and it's
Oh,
so
yes.
complicated. But my website, which I have to update, but there's a lot of stuff over there. Well, three W's, and it's Dragon Brush Studio singular.com. One word, Dragon Brush Studio.
Mm,
And that's the website. It's got everything, comics, storyboards, maybe some video. Actually, and the social links are there. But yeah, I'm on Facebook. You can find me there, dragonbrushstudio.com. My Instagram, which I use a lot more because I realize I get a lot of likes there more so than Facebook.
hmm. Hmm.
So I just post a little thing and boom, like 20 likes, which is wonderful. So if you don't mind, I'll put out
Of
the
course.
Instagram is, well, yeah, Instagram.com. The account is dragonbrush underscore studio. That's that. So
Nice.
that's everything out there. And again, I'm working for Heroic Publishing, and I do put out more information on Facebook only because that's where friends and family are. I can put out news, but I do try to share in both platforms. But as I put out art and clips and previews, there's a lot of stuff on Facebook, and which I tend to post daily, much to my wife's annoyance because she's you spend so much time, but I say, my love, that's how I get the word out. So I actually do use it for work and not,
Yeah.
looking at dog videos all day.
Right.
But yeah, that's it. Very happily working away, trying to make a living and enjoying experiences like this and being able to talk comics and share. And I appreciate you inviting me. This is wonderful. I like this. Very nice. I feel very comfortable, is what I want to say.
Well, great, great. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And I'm glad to have you back anytime as you're talking
Thanks.
about projects and other things. Please do return and
Oh, that'd be great.
we'll discuss further.
Great. Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone have a wonderful day
That's
and
right.
a great weekend and see you soon, hopefully. All right.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Sounds
Take
great.
care.
You too.